Hi folks, thanks for coming. My name is Guy Lemunyon. I'm the certification chairperson for Rational Recovery, and my co-presenter in this presentation is Nicola Bishop from the Institute for Rational Emotive Therapy in New York. And the structure of this workshop will be, I'm going to take the first portion of the workshop and go over Rational Recovery certification credentialing, and Nicola is going to talk about education and the educational interface between the Institute for Rational Emotive Therapy, Rational Recovery Systems, and Rational Recovery Certification. And then after that, we'll take your questions. I want to take just a couple of minutes to talk about myself. That's one of the very valuable things that I've found about being here for the last couple of days is the opportunity that we've all had to talk together, get to know each other, and I've found that personally very meaningful. I went to work in addiction care treatment 16 years ago. I happened to have quit a narcotics problem on my own, and when I went to work in addiction care, I was told I did it the wrong way.
Yeah.
I got the message real clear. You get with us or get out. So I was rather untrue to myself. I went and educated myself about the irrational 12 steps and feigned knowledge and learned some of the slogans and some of the jargon that we now call it self-talk or 12-step speak or whatever you might call it. And I worked in addiction care and never really felt entirely comfortable, and in my personal dealing with clients, never told them that there was only one way to do it, because there always has been options. There have been options before rational recovery. There was options before limits for sobriety. There were always options to 12-step treatment. There was religion in and of itself, which had been rehabilitating people much before the marvelous 12 steps. Aversion treatment in many of its various forms, psychotherapy. So there's always been options and alternatives. It's just that the 12-step industry had not recognized those. But I, in my individual work with patients, had always done option exploration, because that's what I had learned was the core of counseling, exploring options with clients, and not telling them the one right, true, and only way. And with the advent of rational recovery, I immediately called as soon as I got the materials and told Jack I needed to be involved. And he said, great, start a group. And I know that many of you in the room who had the same experience, you got rational recovery information, you called rational recovery, and you were told, great, you're now running a group. So it's been my privilege and pleasure to do that, to be part of this social movement and this social change. And I want to take just a minute to talk about my personal gains in my very 12-step agency, which has told me not to publicly announce its name and not involve me with my agency. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, my 12-step agency now, when we get intake calls, people who are wishing to have a non-12-step alternative are now referred to Rational Recovery or other self-help groups instead of being told, drink and die, you fool. And we now, for those desperate few people who won't respond to the 12 steps but still are motivated to stay in treatment, we will provide the Rational Recovery materials in my treatment center. And the last little bit was that we are accepting people in for detoxification services so that they can come for detoxification and be discharged to go to a rational recovery modality. Right currently now, even as we speak, there's probably going to be a test case that's in my 12-step agency, a physician licensed in this state who rejects the 12 steps and has been provided with rational recovery material. And I don't know in many of your states about diversion programs for healthcare professionals that insist that make continued licensure contingent upon participation in 12-step recovery programs, big book studies and those kinds of things. So there's some interesting things going on, and I wanted to take this little aside to share that with you, and how meaningful that personally being involved in the Rational Recovery Network has been for me. In the physicians develop specialties, nurses now have developed nursing specialties in emergency room nursing, critical care nursing, diabetes education, and chemical dependency also has its own unique nursing specialty and a credentialing system dealing with that, recognizing nurse specialists in various subspecialties. So I was involved in the creation of that for the nursing specialty of chemical dependency or substance abuse nursing. And when I got interested in rational recovery and attended the first Rational Recovery Board of Directors meetings, this was one of the items on the agenda. I said, I'm experienced with that, and so I'd be willing to be on the committee to develop that. Of course, I was propelled ahead to committee chairman. Sometimes it happens this way, and we've gone on over the last 18 months to develop a credentialing program. And I want to go over with you our gains to date in the rather short 18 months. And so I want to kind of review for you what are our goals and objectives in having a certification program, what we hope to accomplish, and what we have accomplished already. Number one, we wanted a methodology to recognize many of you people who have been really the founders and the originators of rational recovery in your areas. So the coordinator and the specialist certificate have been a way to recognize you all in the startup phase who got a small book, got a room, and made rational recovery happen with very little experience. The second thing we wanted to do is establish parity. In other words, for lack of a better word, the 12-step system, or maybe we should say a traditional addiction care system. There are basic and advanced credentials for people. The basic credential provides entry-level work, the entree to initial employment in chemical dependency. In most states is something that's called CAC, Certified Alcohol or Alcoholism Counselor, Addiction Counselor, or some equivalent of that. And states have higher level credentials. Some states call it CAC2, NCADC, and a whole host of other credentialing titles that are not very standardized on a national level. And the National Association of Alcoholism Drug Abuse Counselors has a two-tiered system topped off by NCAC2, Nationally Certified Addiction Counselor Level 2. So we wanted to establish this, and we wanted to establish rather a two-tiered system. And we started with, and I made for lack of a better word, I don't know if we would call it a Freudian, maybe we should, no, it wouldn't be an Ellisonian slip. We talked about, when we started, we were trying to provide identification and recognition of people already within the network. And so the CRRC initially started out to be Certified Rational Recovery Coordinator. But as we're looking at the entry to jobs, I think future date will end up with something that says Certified Rational Recovery Counselor, because we are already making these gains, or it's already been reported here at the conference that there are people who are obtaining jobs by virtue of the fact that they have this credential in 18 months. We think that's pretty good. Oh, I don't know. I have to get everything approved. I'm going to talk about the whole approval mechanism. That would be my personal desire. I always get it my way. Jack always gets it his way. You've noticed. Certified Rational Recovery Specialist is not an entry-level credential. This is a special credential identifying a licensed healthcare professional, maybe medical doctor, licensed psychologist, licensed or certified counselor, registered nurse, identifying them as a healthcare provider with a specialty in this particular counseling delivery style, the rational recovery style. So this is meant as a designation to accomplish referral, and these people, as we develop referral lists, will be on the top of the referral list. That is the people credentialed by Rational Recovery. On the other side of it, this provides recovery with the way to provide some sanctions and quality controls, because what if one of these fellows here is a marriage and family counselor and they got their credential and come to a parting of the minds and now believes in controlled drinking and begins advertising that he is associated with our network and is teaching controlled drinking. Well, it's fine that he teaches controlled drinking. We don't have a problem with that. But we would have a problem with the use of our term and the trademark designation rational recovery. So we would also have a way to sanction behavior to maintain a consistency. Mike?
The term advisor is used under the nomenclature somehow. And is this a list of people that are called advisors?
Yeah, the parallel to this, a coordinator would receive a credential after, and I'm going to get into the details of the requirements, but the coordinator is currently receiving a credential as a certified rational recovery coordinator. I think we ought to move to certified rational recovery counselor, and the advisor would receive a credential that says certified rational recovery specialist. Now, how we arrived at this designation is looking at other models, specifically the American Academy of Healthcare Providers that confers a designation called CAS, Certified Addiction Specialist, for licensed healthcare professionals, medical doctors, licensed psychologists, nurses. So it's Peter.
Is there a slight shift in function between the present advisor and what we were just describing as a specialist? As we just described, the specialist is one of really quality control of the groups themselves, as well as other health, as well as some of the other things that advisors currently.
Well, we really, I don't think in our development, in my perception of it, are that sophisticated, is to make this distinction, and it's just our discussions over the last few days are pointing to the need to pare both these issues out even a little more, considering we're only 18 months old. And our third designation, it became necessary after people were taking the residency training in rational recovery residential, and currently people will likely wish to take residency training in rational recovery inpatient types of programs for a special and a different recognition for people who had done a 30-day residency. And so we initiated a third credential, certified rational recovery therapist. And the basic definition of this, by definition, this person is a previously licensed or certified healthcare professional who's taken special 30-day residency training in rational recovery residential. And the board of directors just recommended a new and fourth credential, a certified rational recovery educator, to attempt to draw in large numbers of people in the school settings who may be interested in a rational alternative to the 12-step type of approach that the public school system is disseminating on campus 12-step meetings, and we would like to proliferate the student assistance programs that would include rational recovery meetings for young folks too. So this will be a method to recognize these people and to I shouldn't use the word market, to make available rational recovery to another group. So I don't expect that you read this all, but this is the material that you would receive if you were interested in making application for rational recovery credentialing, and I'm going to go over the credentialing requirements, answer your questions later on. But this gives you the details of the requirements for a coordinator, specialist, and therapist, and then the fourth item, the educator, will be added on the next version of this. So there is a fee, and in general, we're wishing coordinators to have a 1-year experience in coordinating rational recovery groups to submit using the model that's previously used by the Institute for Rational Emotive Therapy, which is a work sample. That is an audio tape of one of your group sessions, or if you also do individual counseling, and wish to submit that instead let me paraphrase this question. Will my being a certified rational recovery specialist limit me to the use of addictive voice recognition training and rational recovery in my practice? Of course not. Of course not. Right. Only we wouldn't wish to add controlled drinking to an eclectic bag of tricks. So that might be the limit. Okay. Okay, so we're on the same wavelength. Peter.
Yeah, I was just wondering, people who are getting jobs as over the AA 12-step areas, but we're running groups. They're getting jobs for running groups. Is that called a counselor, or is that called something else?
That's as different as there are states in the union, and there are different regulations and requirements across state lines. Some call it therapist, some call it counselor, some call it case manager, case worker. You know, there's lots of different titles for that. Now, I don't think in the short term that you're going to take your CRRC credential and turn it into a job with a 12-step program. I don't think they're going to be impressed at this time. But remember, we're planning future date goals. And our credential is going to be more recognized in rational type treatment settings. And matter of fact, in Southern California, we are, and I don't know how many the rest of you have been offended by the drinking driver program and their requirements of religious instruction. But we are going to bid for a rational DUI program. And guess who we're going to hire? So we're creating a parallel to the existing system, which says we hope that we can be a little more eclectic and be a little more open to things other than rational recovery in the business application. But we're certainly going to seek people who are of a rational vein. So we hope to get approval, to get a contract to do that, and we think we'll be successful. Oh, Michael again.
Which state are we doing that in?
Southern California.
Rational DUI?
Well, we're not certain of the name, but an alternative to the current 12-step DUI program. So we're going to go to business.
I'll follow up Bill's question. What are the limits of deviation in RO learning, and how is that enforced?
Not clearly defined at this point in time, and we have not sanctioned anyone to date. Likely the next step will be the development of some form of scope of practice or statement of intent that's as yet undeveloped. And I'm certain we'll develop that as we go along. It'll be sufficiently vague to allow eclectic practice.
I just wanted to mention that the SB 3800 driving program has downchanged to where AA is not the only alternative, and you can use other alternatives. It's written in the Title IX as now, and in fact, that's going to change even more to where AA and alternatives are not going to be mandated anymore. It's just going to be left out completely.
Yeah, where'd you get that information?
I work at the integrated driving program, and we have the state representative come and tell us that we had to use other alternatives as opposed to AA. Like Jackalow came up with that, well, here's another alternative. So that's actually written in the law now.
Well, it always was. At least this is just a little California inside stuff. The rest of you folks, plug up your ears. The California DUI program always demanded alternatives. Only the lay counselor on the job, whose only credential to perform his function was he managed not to drink for 2 years and attend the Church of Alcoholics Anonymous, was not aware of the law and did not provide a program of counseling and denied people their right to alternatives. So let's get off the state-specific issues just because we're... Hi.
Yeah, I want to go back to him. You know, when I first saw this thing that came with the credentialing stuff a year ago, one of the documents in there looked like a loyalty oath or something.
Yeah, we're getting to that.
Okay.
We're moving up to that.
Now I lost that.
So let me present the rationale for that, and then we can come back to that later.
The other thing was, twice now you've mentioned
Oh, absolutely. Well, within rational recovery, yes, it's a no-no.
Well, that sort of goes against scientific evidence, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know that. But if you will clearly look at the material, at your rational recovery material, it says it's an abstinence-based program. So rational recovery in and of itself, and I don't really speak for rational recovery except as a member of the board of directors. This is my interpretation of what rational recovery is. It's an abstinence-based program. If people come to me and wish to control drink, I encourage them to find a methods of moderation group to help them. We have not had a problem. These are just the potential problems that we would see future date. There's been no current problem. It's just that the specific application of rational recovery does not include that. So
I think that we are in a market, and one of the issues here, I think that's very important, is that we be clear that RR is an abstinence program. Because AA is an abstinence program. If you want to kill yourself, stand up. Someone like start suggesting that RR also entertain people drinking.
Okay. So we're taking a chunk. Right. Yeah.
Peter.
There's another important principle, you were alluding to it before, and that is that the client decides for themselves what means of attacking their problem they are going to use. And that's one of the principles that we adopt in RR. And so that's one of the things people are saying, I'm going to be forced to do this, that, the other thing, is actually a violation of our principles or the coordinators who enforce. That's where, if we were to turn around and say to somebody, you do addictive voice recognition, or you are going to die.
I hope not.
That would not be a violation of our principles, and we might make your certification.
Right, yeah, it's a method of quality control. Okay, when the application process includes, and this is the application for coordinator certification, it does have, and it was necessary to put in some form of loyalty oath. The principles of ethics determine some predetermined ethical types of statements. In other words, without some form of predetermined ethical statement, if I commit an act which you personally feel is unethical, and two other of my peers don't feel is unethical, we just have a disagreement. We don't have any predetermined ethical standard. So there was a need to draw from existing literature what was the state of the art at that time. At the time we initiated the certification program, I think we'll probably evolve our own unique set of ethics, our own, which may include, how to deal with the person that wishes to control drink, our own unique code of practices. But remember, we're a startup operation, and so there was a need for people to agree with the basic principles of rational recovery. And so we put together a few of the things that I'm going to review, and we asked people to sign this, and this is your entree for passage into certification that's required. One person only made a mark on here that said they weren't certain that they agree with the principles of the small book because they hadn't read it. And we're not ready to identify that person as a rational recovery specialist if they haven't read small book. It would seem rather necessary. So we're saying in our oath of allegiance or statement or agreement with principles, however you would wish to term this, I affirm that the documents submitted are authentic to the best of my knowledge. I have read and agree in principle, because no one agrees with the jot and tittle of everything. I agree in principle with the book. That's the small book, A Revolutionary New Alternative, and a couple of other documents that I'm going to review just briefly. I'm assuming that most of you are aware of these. Self-Supervision Approaches and Attitudes Survey Guidelines for Self-Supervision for Rational Recovery Systems and Rational Recovery System Organizational Relapse Guidelines. I will guard against any potential conflict of interest in my rational recovery activities. And this came up, and this also is not clearly defined, and your board of directors discussed this. At what level is it conflict of interest? Facilitating an RR group and going to clients and saying, you need to see me individually in my office, you're ill, is definitely a conflict of interest. Now, whether sending a business card out with rational recovery information when your business is paying the freight for the mail and other kinds of questions, we're developing some guidelines for. But there are likely some clear possible or potential conflict of interest, and we just want people to be aware of this. The certification is valid for 2 years, and how many people here have another credential or license that requires continuing education? Okay, thanks. I just wanted that for basic information. Our method of continuing education is your subscription to the journal. So our assumption is that you read it. We're not haranguing you with lengthy post-tests. This is honor system. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't go over the other requirements. One year of group facilitation experience. So a person, the model goes like this. Person enters rational recovery. They attain abstinence. And after a period of time, maybe up till their 6th month or so, they say, I'm interested in taking an active leadership role, and they become a co-coordinator for a group. And after a time, then they take over, and the current coordinator fades off or starts a second group or does whatever he or she does. And now we know after the last presentation that a mixed gender coordinator, co-coordinator pairing is good. The person takes over a group and facilitates it for a 12-month period. In that 12-month period, we hope that they would attain some more formalized training in RET. I would personally hope that they read some more books from the Institute, listened to some tapes from the Institute. But we're saying we had to cut the line somewhere, so we said 10 clock hours of education. We'd like them to do that, and to submit the work sample that we previously discussed, pay a processing fee because there is a cost to handle this, and additional monies may be used to support the Racial Recovery Self-Help Network, and sign our agreement of principles. We'd like that to call it an oath of allegiance. Were there questions before I go on? I'm sorry. Somebody had a question. Hi.
It seems like it's going to take at least a year to complete that, and then it's good for 2 years. What is going to happen at the end of 2 years? Why was that time suggested? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, that's rather in parallel with other licensing and credentialing functions. We were wishing to establish a parity to general. Now, we might find people here who have a 5-year credential and have to take a re-exam after 5 years. Many of the 2-year credentials, you take continuing education, and then you re-sign and re-identify. Otherwise, the quality control may be lost, and we may credential people, and 15 years later they're doing something entirely different. They're out of our network. We have not seen them, and we've issued them a lifetime credential. That's probably not wise from the quality control standpoint.
Do you have guidelines for what's suitable for publication in the journal?
Well, that's kind of outside the presentation, the scope of this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, are there guidelines available? Because it says submit one article suitable for publication.
Oh, at this time, no. Yeah, no. I know that is a future goal. The development of some form of style guide, but at present, no. Write it up and send it in.
Okay.
I got one for you, Guy. On this one here, you've got the additional areas of training now. It's basically out of the
Well, let me hold on training because I'm 45 minutes into this presentation. I want Mickler to have an opportunity. So what I'd like to do is hold the questions, finish up, let Mickler talk about this particular question, and then finish up on your questions. And if people have general questions, I'd like to entertain them during this presentation. If you have specific questions, I'd like to do it after so that we can get all the information out. The application for specialist requires sending a photocopy of the degree or license that is the basic standard, and there's been some slight change in this. It would be licensure certification as a registered nurse, medical doctor, licensed psychologist, marriage and family counselor, or for the states that don't have licensure for masters prepared counselors, a NCC credential, nationally certified counselor credential, or its equivalent. And individual questions we go over. 10 clock hours of training and a work sample is required, and the rest is the statement of agreement with rational recovery principles. The certified rational recovery therapist requires a copy of the credential and a letter of reference for the completion of the residential training go in the file. In other words, the person who was the clinical supervisor in the residential placement would write a letter to go in the file to cause that verification. I want to just briefly go over the documents that we decided that at that time. This is one that didn't get on the list, but I certainly think it's been helpful to me. And these several are out of the book, Rational Emotive Therapy with Alcoholics and Substance Abusers, which is available from the Institute, which is an excellent book and provides lots of aids. And in this, Albert Ellis goes over his take of what effective therapists are. And I wholeheartedly agree and concur, and this looks to me like the way I learned it and what my personal philosophy agrees with. And we have rather made it just a slight adaptation of some of this for self-supervision guidelines. These are rational recovery self-supervision guidelines with the credit to Albert Ellis on questions to pose for yourself. Those of you that are in a leadership or an advisorship position, we would hope that in working with coordinators, when there's a conflict or problem, you would be looking to this as a guide in how to do problem resolution, resolve disputes. An inventory or a self-questioning guide is also available so that I can ask myself these questions, and these are all copied in the new coordinator's manual. So what I'd like to do now, oh, I'm sorry. Most importantly, the relapse guidelines. We've broken out, what do you do if an advisor goes out and has, and I've heard it spoken here, people who had used other methods to recover and switched to rational recovery and had one drink and got right back on the abstinence pathway. What are we going to do with these people? How are we going to deal with this as an organization? So it's good to have some predetermined guidelines. So we made the cut between lapse, which is one drink less than 24 hours, and relapse, which is over 24 hours return to re-addiction. And we said that the responsibility to report relapse is not on a third party, it's yours. If you are a volunteer in this network and you should relapse, it is your responsibility, taking individual accountability and responsibility in mind, to report that lapse or relapse and let rational recovery systems make a determination of what to do. And it may be as easy as asking you to get with an advisor or something else. So this is in writing and will be a part of future manuals. And I hope everybody's familiar with this. I want to stop now and have Nicola Bishop come up and talk about education and generally and specifically as to the educational interface between the Institute and our educational requirements, because Nicola is on the board of directors for Rational Recovery Self-Help Network. Nicola?